something happened before the concert even began. And strangely enough, it wasn't the stage, the music, or even the concert preparations that first caught ARMY's attention. Instead, it was a seemingly ordinary moment that suddenly made everyone look in a completely different direction. And if you think you already know what was happening with Jimin just from the first few seconds, you may want to look again. Because there is one small detail that slowly became impossible to ignore. Something that might seem completely insignificant to some people. But for ARMY, who have spent years paying attention to even the smallest details about Jimin, it was not something they could simply overlook. And what makes this even more intriguing is the timing. This happened right before a major concert. At a moment when everyone should have been focused on the stage. When the anticipation was building. When fans were preparing themselves for the arrival of BTS. And yet, somehow Jimin became the focus before the concert had even started. What exactly was happening? Why did such an ordinary-looking moment suddenly attract so much attention? And most importantly, why did Jimin appear so different in those few moments caught on camera? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're taking a closer look at a moment involving Jimin that has once again left ARMY wondering what they were actually seeing. And I want you to stay until the next part, because we are not going to reveal the main detail immediately. Instead, we're going to take a closer look at the atmosphere first. Then the subtle change that fans began noticing. Then the reason attention suddenly shifted toward Jimin. And only after that will we get to the detail that makes this moment far more interesting than it initially appears. Because the most interesting part of this story has not even been revealed. Think about the atmosphere surrounding a major BTS concert. The anticipation is already everywhere. Fans are waiting. The excitement is building. Cameras are ready. People are watching for every update. And naturally, everyone expects the biggest moment to happen when BTS finally steps onto the stage. But this time, something unexpected happened before that moment. Jimin once again became the center of attention. Not because of a dramatic announcement. Not because of a spectacular performance. Not because of a major statement. But because of something much simpler. And that is exactly why people started looking twice. Because sometimes, the smallest moments can become the most difficult to ignore. Especially when the person involved is Jimin. For years, ARMY have watched Jimin in countless different situations. They have seen him under bright stage lights. They have seen him during interviews. They have seen him with the other members. They have seen him laughing. They have seen him being serious. They have seen his most energetic performances. And they have also seen the quieter moments when Jimin appears completely relaxed. So when something about his atmosphere feels even slightly different, longtime fans naturally notice. Not because they can read his mind. No one can. But because they have become familiar with the way he carries himself. They notice expressions. They notice small movements. They notice changes in mood. And when all of that happens just before a concert, curiosity becomes even stronger. But here is where the story gets interesting. Because we still haven't reached the actual detail that made ARMY look twice. And that is intentional. If we revealed everything in the opening seconds, there would be no mystery left. The real story is in the buildup. It is in the tiny details that appear almost insignificant at first. It is in the contrast between the Jimin we normally see on a massive stage and the Jimin captured in this much quieter moment. Imagine what is happening behind the scenes before a major concert. There are rehearsals. There are technical preparations. There are costume changes. There are staff members coordinating countless details. There is physical preparation. There is mental preparation. And somewhere in between all of that, there are brief moments when an artist can simply breathe. Those moments may never become part of the official concert. They may last only a few seconds. But sometimes those are exactly the moments fans remember most. Because on stage, we see the finished performer. We see the confidence, the energy, the choreography, the lights, the crowd. Everything has been carefully prepared. But before the lights come on, there is still a person behind that performer. And occasionally, a camera catches a glimpse of that side. Maybe only for a few seconds. Maybe through a simple expression. Maybe through an ordinary activity. But sometimes that is enough to make fans stop scrolling and watch again. Once. Twice. Maybe even several times. That is the power of a curiosity gap. We know something happened, but we don't know exactly why it matters. We see Jimin, but we don't yet know what made this particular moment so interesting. We see the atmosphere, but we still haven't reached the detail that caused ARMY to focus on him. And that unanswered question is exactly what keeps the story moving. There is also something important about timing. When an idol is preparing for a concert, fans naturally become more observant. They want to know whether their favorite artist looks ready. Are they excited? Are they relaxed? Are they nervous? Do they look tired? Is anything different? These questions are completely natural, but they also remind us of something important. We should always separate what we can actually see from what we simply assume. A short video can show us an expression. It can show us an action. It can show us a moment. And that distinction matters. Because the most fascinating stories do not always need exaggerated rumors. Sometimes, the truth is already interesting enough. A simple moment. A familiar face. A completely unexpected setting. And suddenly, thousands of fans are asking the same question. Wait, did you notice that? That may be exactly what happened here. And perhaps that is why this moment feels so different. It doesn't appear to be trying to create a huge spectacle. There is no obvious attempt to make it dramatic. And yet, somehow, Jimin still manages to pull attention toward himself. That is something that has happened many times throughout his career. Sometimes Jimin does not need a stage. He does not need a microphone. He does not need a complicated performance. Sometimes, simply appearing naturally in front of a camera is enough. And for longtime ARMY, those moments can feel surprisingly personal, because they remind fans that behind the global superstar is still someone who experiences ordinary moments just like everyone else. That contrast can be incredibly powerful. The superstar Jimin, and the everyday Jimin, the performer who can command an enormous stage, and the person who can appear completely comfortable in a quiet environment. Those two sides can exist at the same time. And perhaps that is what makes this particular moment worth watching closely. But there is still one question hanging over everything. Why did this happen right before the concert? Was it simply an ordinary moment caught on camera? Was Jimin taking a brief break from the intense preparations? Was there something about the situation that made fans react? Or is the answer much simpler than everyone initially imagined? We are not going to answer that just yet. Because before we reveal the central detail, there is another part of this moment that deserves attention. His expression. His body language. The atmosphere around him. And most importantly, the contrast between what we expected to see before a major concert and what the camera actually captured. That contrast is what makes this story so intriguing. The concert had not started. The lights had not taken over the stadium. The audience had not yet experienced Jimin's full stage presence. And yet, Jimin was already capturing attention. That alone is remarkable, because it raises another question. If a quiet moment before the concert can create this much curiosity, what will happen when Jimin finally steps onto the stage? Will that calm atmosphere suddenly transform into the explosive energy ARMY know so well? Will the expression we see now become something completely different once he sees the audience? And will this seemingly ordinary moment suddenly feel much more meaningful after the concert begins? We simply don't know yet. And perhaps that is exactly why we should wait before making any conclusions. Because sometimes the most fascinating part of a story is not what we already know. It is what we haven't discovered yet. And this story is still unfolding. For now, remember one thing. The concert had not even begun. Yet Jimin had already managed to make ARMY stop, look again, and wonder what exactly they had just witnessed. Not because something enormous had happened. After all the anticipation, all the questions, and all the speculation surrounding Jimin before the concert, the detail that caught ARMY's attention was actually much simpler than many people expected. Jimin was seen in a much more relaxed environment, wearing an apron and appearing around a cooking area. At first glance, it might sound completely ordinary, but that is exactly what made the moment so interesting. Because this was Jimin. The same Jimin who was preparing to step onto a massive stage was suddenly seen in an atmosphere that felt incredibly casual and familiar. No dramatic stage lights. No elaborate performance outfit. Just Jimin appearing comfortable in a completely different setting. And that contrast immediately changed the way fans looked at the moment. For ARMY, it was not necessarily about what Jimin was doing. It was about seeing a side of him that feels so different from the image people usually associate with a major concert. There is something strangely comforting about seeing a global superstar doing something so simple. It reminds fans that behind the enormous stages, the sold-out venues, the cameras, and the constant attention, Jimin is still a person who can enjoy ordinary moments. And perhaps that is why the moment became so memorable. Imagine waiting for a huge concert, expecting to see your favorite artist preparing for one of the biggest moments of the night. Then suddenly, you see him in an apron. That unexpected contrast is enough to make anyone stop and look again. But there is another reason this moment feels special. It gives fans a glimpse of Jimin outside the pressure of performance. When Jimin steps onto a stage, everything changes. His posture changes. His energy changes. His expression becomes more intense. He becomes the performer millions of people recognize. But moments like this remind us that there is another side to him. A quieter side. A more natural side. A side that does not need choreography or stage lights to be interesting. And perhaps that is the real reason ARMY became so focused. They were not simply watching an idol preparing for a concert. And sometimes those are the moments fans treasure most. Of course, it is important not to overinterpret a short clip. We cannot know exactly what Jimin was thinking or feeling based on a few seconds of footage. We should not turn assumptions into facts. But we can appreciate what is actually visible. Jimin appeared relaxed. The environment was casual. And the contrast with the massive concert waiting ahead made the moment particularly charming. It also creates an interesting emotional connection with fans. For a long-time ARMY, watching Jimin grow from a young performer into an internationally recognized artist has been a journey filled with countless memories. They have seen the stages become bigger. They have seen the performances become more powerful. They have watched BTS reach places that once seemed impossible. And yet, moments like this can make everything feel surprisingly close again. For a few seconds, the enormous distance between superstar and fan seems to disappear. There is no stadium between them. No giant screen. No complicated production. Just a simple moment that feels familiar. And perhaps that is why the timing before the concert makes it even more meaningful. Before Jimin becomes the performer everyone is waiting for, there is this quieter moment. Before the music begins, there is silence. Before the lights come on, there is calm. And before thousands of voices call his name, there is simply Jimin. That contrast is beautiful. Because it reminds us that every spectacular performance begins somewhere. Behind every powerful stage moment is preparation. Behind every smile in front of thousands of people are countless quiet moments that the audience never sees. And maybe this was one of those moments. So when the concert finally begins and Jimin steps onto the stage, fans may see him completely differently. They will remember that just moments earlier, he was not surrounded by dramatic effects or roaring crowds. He was simply being himself. And perhaps that makes the eventual transformation even more impressive. From quiet to powerful. From ordinary to extraordinary. That is the magic of Jimin. He can make the biggest moments unforgettable, But sometimes it is the smallest moments that remind people why they care so deeply. So what do you think? Did this simple pre-concert moment make you see Jimin differently? Was it his relaxed atmosphere, his expression, or simply the unexpected contrast that made you stop and watch? Tell us what you noticed in the comments. And if you are an ARMY who believes that the smallest Jimin moments can sometimes become the most memorable ones, make sure you stay connected to the channel. Because the concert may have started with anticipation, but for ARMY, the story had already begun long before the first note was played. And perhaps that is the most beautiful part of all. Jimin did not need to do something extraordinary to capture everyone's attention. For a few moments, simply being Jimin was enough. Purple Heart.